Welcome everybody, I'm Chris Holman and I'm here with two people who you will recognize, one way more in the near future, and that is Andrew Levy, who is the CEO of Avelo Airlines, and another guy who you may recognize from some other ventures here, the head coach of MSU basketball, Tom Izzo.
Well, thanks, Chris. Andrew, nice to have you in our humble abode here.
This is a great place. Thanks for getting us out of the locker room, by the way. Appreciate that. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about what's really essential to a lot of businesses and people and coaches and everybody else, and that's leadership. And so let me start off with this. And I think we'll talk first with you, Andrew, your definition of leadership.
Well, I think leadership is about inspiring a group of others to kind of adopt a shared purpose and move together in a direction, whatever your mission is. In our case, our purpose is to inspire travel. That's why we exist. That's why we built the company. And so getting others to kind of embrace that shared purpose and kind of carry that forward as a team, because it's a huge team sport, an airline. So that's how I would define it.
Excellent. Bringing the team together, basically. Tom, speaking of teams.
Yeah, you know, we call it gathering. I used to say I'm looking for guys that can drag other people with them, but when you use the word drag, it seems like you're forcing them. So we talk about gathering people, you know, and the common phrase I get from parents is, my son's a great leader because, you know, he takes care of his own business. And he leads by example. I despise leaders by example, sort of, because that means they're just taking care of themselves. I'm looking for leaders that, you know, your company's a lot bigger than my 13 team, but I'm looking for people that gather a lot of people, again, for a common goal, hopefully win a championship. Mine's an NCAA, yours is getting your company where it needs to be at the top.
Yeah.
There you go. So, Tom, let's talk a little bit about, because one of the processes is bringing people on board, right? So let's talk about onboarding. Let's talk about how you get the right people in the right spots.
You know, we call it OKG, our kind of guys, and then we changed it to OKF, our kind of families, because, you know, where you guys get to deal with people as you get older, some of your clients get older. As I get older, mine stay 18 to 22, so I got more problems than you guys got, if you remember back to your college days. But I think that is very important, that you find people that meet your standards. You know, I think a lot of times we try to put a square peg in a round hole and it doesn't work. So you got to find people that have the same goals and dreams and missions in their life, and that's what we try to do.
Yeah, so the recruitment is a big part, get the right person, right, Andrew?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, our view is that we want to make sure that we're very smart and intentional about the people we ask to join us on our journey. They have to kind of embrace our values that we have as a company to begin with, because if they're not our kind of people, our kind of guys or gals, it's too difficult. You have to have people that are going to buy in from day one, and so the selection process is really important. And if sometimes you make a mistake and you have to deal with that so that you keep your culture intact.
Well, you know, it's an interesting saying, if you can't measure, it's not worth doing. And so how do you measure? How do you measure when you're a success? And it's not just W's and L's or profit.
Sure, no, I measure it really, what I look at is the operation each and every day. Are we flying on time, and are we meeting our commitment to our customers? Because we're selling a schedule to our customers, and once they give us their money, you know, we need to get them to where they need to go and get them there on time. And so that's what I look at more than anything. If we're running an on-time operation day in, day out, good things just happen. And that's what the byproduct of that becomes profitability. Once you're big enough, you have enough scale to do that.
Don't chase money, it'll come.
That's right.
All right.
Tom? Yeah, and I look at similar consistency and accountability. And do we have those two things? And I look at big picture stuff. You know, I have no interest in winning a game. You know, I really want to win, you know, the event. You know, the event for me is, are we getting good enough that we can sustain something over a period of time? 1 year, 2 years isn't good enough. So you make decisions, but I never make a decision on just today. Try to get better today, but I make a decision, what is going to be best for the program? And probably like you, like me, we get a lot of blame and we get some credit once in a while, but But if you look at it like you're trying to build a program, not a team, that's the way I kind of look at it. I want the big picture.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, because one of the important factors of success is buy-in. Your team buys into what you're doing and they're part of it. Let's talk about what you communicate to them to get them to that level. Tom?
Well, culture is a big part of that. You know, you have to build a culture, and starting out, it's a little harder, you know, because you need other people. I'd say the best salespeople are the people that have played for you. If I was in marketing and I was trying to sell shoes, you know, yeah, the billboards are great, but there's no better salesperson than the people you've already served. If I was in the airlines, you know, I think the customers that you serve become your best advertisers. And when you have that, then you have culture. When you have culture, then you can really move on. And the former people, like for me, you know, Chris, we have a lot of reunions here. Former players come back when Magic and Steve Smith and Mateen and all those guys come back, and I'm having problems with a kid or I'm having problems with somebody, I let them talk to them because they've been through it. And that's the advantage of having culture.
Yeah, interesting. And you don't orchestrate that much what they say to the kids.
You know, the truth is, I don't.
Yeah.
Because I think then it's phony. And I think what happens if your culture is strong enough, those people really believe what they're selling. And let me tell you, most guys that go through here, they aren't big fans of mine for 4 years, you know, but they become a lot bigger. It's like your parents, you know, from 16 to 22, your parents are the dumbest human beings on the planet. You know, before that, they're great. After that, they become smarter all of a sudden. So does a coach or a boss, I think.
Well, I have to tell you, I'm kind of proud of the fact that as a parent, I've maintained that lower level.
As a husband, too, I heard. You got it all the way around.
Andrew, how about you?
You know, look, I agree with a lot of what Coach said. I mean, in our business, so we have to be, I think you said about being phony, and I agree. I mean, you have to be authentic.
Yeah.
And I think it starts here. You have to really believe in what you're doing. And for us, we have 4 core values. It's safety always, keep it simple, do the right thing, and one crew, which is about teamwork and working together to achieve this common goal. And those can't just be words. You have to really believe it. And everybody that comes in, part of the reason they come, hopefully, is because they believe those things and it really resonates with them. So again, it comes back to selection, but then you got to walk the walk too. And that's where I think certainly me, my team, really everybody leading by example is huge. And I think our customers are huge ambassadors. It's a big deal for us, but so are our people, because I view them as our brand ambassadors out there, and them being excited to be at Avelo, it just, customers see that, and it kind of helps build the brand and help build that excitement and buy-in to what we're doing.
It's interesting. I read a book years ago called Built to Last. And so that brings me to this question, which is, what is the long-range plan? It's said in business, the day you start your business, you should have your exit plan in mind. So I'm not, Tom, don't get nervous. I'm not asking you to. No, I mean, but what is the long-range plan? Because you guys are in this for the long range.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Look, the long-range plan is to just build a great company. And there is no end. It's a journey that never ends. It's a mission that'll never be complete. It's about building something that's great, and Built to Last. It's a great book, but that really is the goal. Is just to build a great, self-sustaining business that and those tend to get bigger over time if it really truly is a great business. So that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, excellent.
You know, for me, I hit the jackpot because in year 3, we won the Big Ten. In year 4, we went to a Final Four. In year 5, we won the national championship. And everybody said, you know, it's harder to maintain than it is to build. And I said, you know, that could be true, but I have no interest in maintaining. Because when I won it, I ran into a guy named John Wooden, who used to be the greatest of all the greatest. And he said, welcome to the fraternity of 40. And I didn't know, I thought he was going senile on me. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, I figured it out that there were 40 coaches that had won a national championship. As I was feeling so good about myself, Bill Walton was there at the event I was at, and he reminded me, Tom, you've won 1, but he's won 10.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're not maintaining, we're building, and the journey just keeps on going, you know. I say that being good is one thing, being great is another, but being elite is what I'm looking to do, and I'm a long way from that. And unfortunately, Andrew, so are you, but the journey we're on, as long as we have that as our focus, I think it continues.
Yeah, I think you never get there, really.
No.
So so do you communicate that? Because people have to realize there's no excellent. There's a top end that we've achieved so far.
So far.
But obviously, it can be achieved beyond that, because somebody comes along and does that. How do you communicate that? As good as you are today, you won by 40 points, or we kicked, the other airlines' butts. How do you communicate we can do better?
Yeah, it's very difficult. I've been lucky when you have Magic Johnson in our place. Yeah. You could argue Michael, Magic, Larry, LeBron, who's the greatest, but he's in that statement. So I always got somebody, and I'll never forget, we played Duke a couple of years ago and beat them to go to a Final Four in Washington, and everybody wanted to know what my pregame speech was. It was awesome. We were in there, pregame meal, go for a little film, and all of a sudden Irvin walks through the door. And I said, hey, you want to speak? No, do your thing. I did my thing. And then I said, well, you at least want to wish the guys luck? He gave a speech that was so good, and you always need to find people that have accomplished more, because players, or I think customers, they want to do things with the people that are of the elite status, and that's what their expectations come. Yeah. So I think we can use the same thing in business and in sports, to be honest with you.
Yeah, look, I think that's really true, and I think that our people too. It's a big part of that. It's just it's not one of our values, but it's in our kind of our vision, which is about continuous improvement, always getting better, always seeking excellence. And to me, you never really get there. Yeah. You're always trying to get better. No matter how good you are, you always want to try to get better and better and better. And I think if you get an organization that buys into that again, kind of part of the stated purpose of what we're trying to do, that's core to it. And if our people buy in, it sets the tone, and they each hold each other to a high standard, and I think our customers see that, and that's, I think, what makes the magic happen for us, and hopefully we keep doing it.
Talking about Deming principles, Kaizen, continual improvement.
Well, Chris, and the funny part about that is we're in a society now where everybody gets a trophy. So everybody thinks they've been successful if they finish 27th or 1st. And that's what I think our job is. We have to separate what is greatness, what is eliteness, what are you really shooting for? The world's full of average people. I mean, there's a million of them, there's a billion of them. And I don't think either one of us, just listening to you and seeing what your company is, and you're starting from scratch, kind of. Yeah. You know what? So did I. You're sitting in a room, started from scratch. Had a good program here, but wanted to take it to a whole nother level, and making progress. And then that damn wooden guy screwed it up. So I'm still making progress, but I got a long way to go.
Andrew, any comments on that?
Well, look, I think that it's a mindset too. I think that it depends on your definition of excellence and what is it. My definition is that you never get there, and you just never do. And I hold myself to a very high standard. That's what motivates me, is the continuous pursuit of just getting better and seeking excellence. But I don't think it's a journey that ever ends. I don't think you ever really get there. Yeah. And if you ever get there, then I think that's when mediocrity does set in. Yeah. But I agree with that too. There's a lot of people that are average, and they don't know what excellence looks like. And they've never played for a team that really expects that kind of performance. And that's part of what we try to do too, in terms of the people we bring, especially the senior people, is make sure they understand that this is a whole new game. It's a different level of performance expected, and people really like that. The people that buy into that, they get very motivated by that, because they feel really good about performing at a high level and accomplishing great things, even when the odds are all against you, like it is for a early stage startup airline.
Yeah.
You know what the most rewarding part of my job has become, and I probably should have said this with leadership, is when you get a person to do a lot more than they ever thought they could do. Yeah. That is rewarding. You know, when you watch somebody that comes in, a Xavier Tillman for us, it wasn't a guy, Denzel Valentine, that anybody even thought would be a pro. Or I got girls that work at the front desk that are now in NBA front offices, or, you know, push somebody by spending time with them, because it doesn't work anymore. The Vince Lombardi way, a jump, you ask how high, that ain't happening. You gotta tell them to jump, and you gotta tell them why. But that little word why means you spend a little more time with your people, and then you get somebody to do something that they say, wow, I never thought I could do that.
Yeah.
That is rewarding.
Yeah. Well, you guys all have very similar comments, quite frankly, for being in such different industries. Now, I want to talk a little bit about culture, and for that, I want to bring in a special guest we have in the audience. I'm not sure he knows this or not, so you may get some interesting answers out of him, right? But the head of MEDC, Quentin Messer, is going to join us.
Have nonstop fun in the Florida sun. Fly Lansing nonstop to Orlando International Airport on Avelo Airlines starting October 26th. Enjoy a fun-filled family getaway in Orlando, bask in the Florida sun on beautiful Florida beaches, or go golfing on some of the best courses Florida has to offer. Fly from Lansing's Capital Region International Airport and enjoy affordable parking, hassle-free check-in, and short security lines. Book your trip today at aveloair.com and say hello to Avelo.
Welcome back, everyone. Chris Holman here, and we are here with three leaders, and we're talking about exactly that, leadership. Andrew Levy, who is the CEO of Avelo Airlines. Tom Izzo, who you may recognize of some local fame. He's the CEO of the Spartan basketball team, right? And then the CEO of the MEDC, Michigan Economic Development Corporation, Quentin Messer. And it's good to have you all here. Appreciate that. And we're talking about a topic that is really crucial these days in particular, because I think there are a lot of people that are looking at leadership and saying, I'm somewhat disappointed. And so this is a really good thing for us to throw around. So what I want to know, I guess, from all of you is the importance of getting buy-in from your people to your leadership. I think that's one of the things that kind of exemplifies that you are a good leader. So Andrew, if you don't mind, we'll start with that.
Well, I think getting buy-in is critical to being able to accomplish any great goals. And for us as a startup airline, it's a tough industry. It's tough to get started when you're really small, and you really need people to buy into where we're going. And that is a big part of building our culture. And I mean, we're trying to be very intentional about building a culture. But culture kind of just happens over time. So all we can do is kind of set the tone, make sure we hire people that buy into what we're doing, that are of the same mindset, and then let them kind of take it from there. And that's my job, is to kind of set the stage and make sure we have the right people.
Okay. Tom?
To me, yeah, it's the same. But buy-in, to me, the days are over where you're just going to tell somebody, you know, because you're the CEOs or I'm the head coach or whatever accolades you've gained. I don't think it matters to kids anymore, to people or to men and women that are coming up. I think you got to sell to them what the mission is and tell them what it can do for them, what it can do for us. You know, there's got to be a win-win in this nowadays. I think people need to know that if I play better, I have a chance to move up. If I play better, we have a chance to win. And so I have team goals and individual goals a lot of times, where back in the Bobby Knight days, it was probably team. The Judd Heathcote days, team. I think now I'm not giving in to this modern, the inmates are going to run the asylum, but I am giving in to, it's got to be good for you and good for me, and it's my job to mix the two together.
Yeah. Quentin, how about at MEDC? How do you get buy-in?
So first of all, I'm just grateful to be here. I'm a huge fan of Coach Izzo and what he represents, not only in basketball, but just integrity and what he means to the state. And welcome, Andrew. Welcome to your company. Look, I think at MEDC, you know, as a leader, the only two things I think you can give people are energy and accessibility. And I think if you, and Herbert Jolie, the former CEO of Best Buy, really talked about that in a book. And I try to get people to buy in that they see that I'm accessible. So everybody has my personal mobile, whether you are the maintenance person or the chief operating officer. And then energy, you can't ask people to go beyond themselves if you can't dig down and find that extra gear. And if you've ever watched, Coach Izzo and his teams play, they find that extra gear. Usually it's on the defensive end, but it's really that ability to find that something when then maybe you're tired or it's not quite going your way. And I think as a leader, you bring that energy, regardless of the day or how you feel. And then you also have to bring that accessibility. And absolutely last thing is you never throw colleagues under the bus. As I tell people all the time, anything that goes wrong, if we don't win at MDC, it's my issue. Any credit is the entire team's.
Excellent stuff. It really is. You all kind of said the same thing, and that is letting people achieve to their ultimate, which is good. That goes back to culture, and that would be my final question about building culture. How do you do that, and how do you maintain it? And Quentin, we'll start with you.
So I'm a huge sports fanatic, and I have gotten people at MDC who are not sports fanatic to understand the notion of team, because Michiganders are relentlessly focused on winning. And we have a winning tradition. We're a part of one of the cathedrals of winning here. And this gentleman has done such an amazing part of that. And so what I think you get people to do is to see that they can be a part of being a champion. And I think what you always hear is becoming a champion is a journey. It's a perpetual journey. If you ask Coach Izzo, he's won significantly more games than any Big Ten coach. But he'll tell you he's still on a journey to find something else. Tom Brady, you name it. Anybody that has accomplished extraordinary things. And Andrew, this is your third startup in one of the most difficult industries. And so you get people to sort of buy in that it's a journey and that we're coming on that journey. And at some point, you got to have some fun. So.
I knew I was here for a reason. I didn't know what the reason was, but the reason is every time you get with people that have been successful, I learned one big word in the UP, it was osmosis. And even you, Chris, doesn't know what that means, but it travels, You sit by people, you want to be around people and rub up shoulders with people who have been successful because you learn something, and I couldn't agree more. You say access. If you ask me what I thought I was best at, some people will say yelling at an official, decent at it.
Yeah.
Some people would say, defense or rebounding, I say, you're not even close. The only thing I'm better than 99% of the coaches in America is I'll spend time with my players. When you spend time with your people, they understand you and you understand them. And it's not by text or email. Now, if I was in big companies, poor Mel's got 100, I got 13. But I got parents, I got recruits. I don't care who it is. I try to be accessible. I try to spend time, and I do what I tell my little 8-year-old campers. I learn to listen, but I listen to learn. And if you can listen to learn instead of just being the used car salesman that just keeps talking, you hear things. Well, I've heard things from these two guys. My players will hear later today, because every day you learn a little something new. When you quit learning, it's time to do what you've kind of done, retire,
Stay out of the way.
There you go.
Okay, good. All right. You see the danger in being his friend? Andrew, if you would.
I think that, I think building a culture and maintaining it might be even harder, because especially as you get bigger, a company like ours, we have 500 people now, and a year from now we'll have well over 1,000. But I think it starts with, I agree with what was just said. I think that you have to have passion. So I think it starts there. If you sense that there's an energy, there's a passion, and I think that it really starts, I guess, with me, quite honestly. And but there's many others who I think buy into that, and therefore they have that same passion. And I think that's a fundamental part of it, to get everybody really excited. And I think it's exciting and fun to be part of a winning team. When you win, it's fun, and you get in this virtuous circle that is just wonderful if you can get there, and you got to celebrate the wins that you have. But I also agree that listening is really important, and I think Coach said it a few times, is explaining why. The why is important to get people to buy in, because if they don't know why, it's harder. Then you're just telling them what to do. What you really want people to do is understand and buy in, because they get it. And because that's going to get your best team, that's going to get your best results, that's going to create the right kind of culture that can self-perpetuate as you get much bigger.
You know, it's interesting. We've got a lot of challenges, especially in the business community, and things like inflation, supply chain, all those things. Number one issue for almost the last 10 years has been talent, getting people and keeping people. And Tom, you touched on this. It's a very different talent than you got 10 or 15 years ago. So I want to talk a little bit about how you select those people, how you get them in, and how you're managing them in the new reality. Tom, you might.
Well, I've got a couple of sayings too and things, I'm looking for coaches that would confront and demand. A lot of people don't want to confront. They don't want to get into that. You've got to confront the problem, then you got to demand that it changes. So I'm looking for some people like that. But the biggest one I came up with a couple of years ago, I tried to look at all these kids. I said, what's going to separate them? There's a lot of good players. And so I thought of the 3 L's. Do you like what you do? Do you love what you do? Or do you live what you do? Mm. And to be good, you can like it. To be great, you got to love it. But to be a champion, or in my world, to win the Big Ten, to win a national championship, for my players to get to the NBA level, you got to live what you do. And I tell them it's easier now than it was back then. And they all look at me like I'm crazy because there's better players. There's better players. There's just not as many self-motivated players. There's not as many people that are good self-evaluators. So if you don't evaluate good, you already think you're great. If you think you're great, you don't work as hard. So I say you can get where you want because there's not enough people around you that will sacrifice to live it instead of just liking it.
Yeah. Quentin, you want to?
I couldn't agree more because, I think, what in coach, and the reason I really look up to leaders of men and women who have to coach, particularly at the collegiate level, is the number one ability is availability. And maybe the second one is coachability. And it's the same thing in any organization. You have to have people who, in our case, who are passionate about the state of Michigan, who want to see the economy expand and open up so that every Michigander on both peninsulas, 10 plus million people, can have an incredible quality of life. That's what we're trying to do. And some of the wins are not as tangible. We may not hoist, a Big Ten banner or NCAA banner, but when we see announcements across the state, across both peninsulas, and we see men and women connecting to opportunity, that is exciting. But you have to have people who are available, who are willing to, and really I learned this from basketball. Basketball used to be, you were either a 1 through 5. Now it's positionless, right?
It is.
And you have to have people who are coming to your organization and say, well, yes, maybe I came in as an attorney, but if I see a problem here in strategy or marketing, I'm going to, lean in and try to. So you need people who are flexible. And so I think that what we can take lessons from basketball and apply them to the corporate arena. You've got to have accessibility, coachability, and people willing to play multiple positions.
Hey, Chris.
I know.
Twice. He said both peninsulas. You haven't forgot the UP, brother. I love it.
Iron Mountain. There you go.
Thank you. It's about time.
So does that.
Just quit and I. We'll get Andrew on board. Europe might be lost.
Andrew, if you want to announce your new flight to Ironwood.
Iron Mountain.
No. Ironwood's left of you, right?
Yeah.
It's left of you. Let's talk about it because you have a little different organization. You're building a culture in what you said is 500 and is going to be 1,000.
Right.
That may be a different task.
It is in some ways, right? Because we need people that for certain jobs have a lot of experience in specific skills. Pilot, they need to know how to fly an airplane. But what really is important is, and what we look for everywhere, is character. We can teach a lot of skills to people. But you can't teach somebody that's not a pilot to be a pilot. We're not in that business. But you want to make sure that the pilots you hire or the mechanics you hire, they have the right attitude. And it comes down to, again, character and buying into what we're selling. And what we're selling is about inspiring travel and our core values and the vision as to where we want to take the company. But you got to have the right character. You got to be ready to work hard. You got to buy into the kind of concept that it's one big team. We're all working together to meet the needs of a customer. And we find those people, then those are the right team players, and they come in and they really love what we're doing, and they jump on this journey with us and build. And the builders too. You got to be a builder for what we're doing. We're early stage. We're building a business, but that's really fun for a lot of people to come in and kind of leave their mark on something that didn't exist and make it into something really cool.
You know, the little things. I was just thinking, because I'm trying to learn from you two guys. I swear to God I am. But I get onto a plane, and the attendants, how they treat me, makes me think on how, they're the first ones I see. You get some, I'm not allowed to swear on this, but people that are not very friendly at the front desk, you feel different. You get on the plane, you feel different. You know what I always love? I look at pilots like doctors. When you walk into a doctor's office, if he's sullen, might be a brilliant doctor, but has zero communication skills. Just incredible. I'm scared before I get in there. If I get on a plane and I look into the cockpit and the guy turns, hey, how you doing? Or at the end, those pilots sometimes, some of them kind of greet you as you come off. That would be a hint for you, because that really excites me. I don't know about you guys. That excites me.
Thanks for flying with us, and we hope we say that a lot in the future, actually.
We definitely do.
Gentlemen, thanks so much for coming here today. We appreciate it and sharing your knowledge. Quentin Messers from the MEDC, CEO there. Tom Izzo, legendary coach here at MSU, Spartans basketball, and Andrew Levy from Avelo. We thank you for coming to the area with your airline, and we look forward to some great success through you. And everyone out there also agrees they're going to learn a lot about leadership from this. So thank you all for being here.